Hi, it's us again. We're back.
Hello.
This is episode 3 of the second season of Talking in Spirals, the podcast all about slow living, minimalism, sustainability, and really just chatting about the hyperfixations and niche interests that we have that you likely share.
Did we introduce ourselves? Are we doing that still?
We can do it, yeah. I'm Brennan.
And
This is my voice.
and I'm Maria. We're so happy to be back for season 2. Today we're talking all about the hot girl hamster wheel and all of the expectations placed on women and beauty standards, all of the above. It's going to be a very interesting episode, and we definitely have a lot of thoughts about it.
We have opinions. Get ready. Buckle up.
We're probably going to talk in a spiral, maybe 2.
That's usually what happens.
But first, Brennan, what's your hyperfixation?
My hyperfixation for this particular time in my life is my mango tree. And if you follow me on social media, you already know I have a mango tree. I have successfully made it into my entire personality, the fact that I have a mango tree. We have thousands and thousands of mangoes growing, usually July to August. So during that time, it really becomes a full-time job to make sure none of the fruit gets wasted. And I've been working on a lot of recipes, processing mangoes, freezing mangoes, picking mangoes up off the ground that have exploded when they hit the ground, things like that.
Oh my
It
God.
is really fun. And as someone who doesn't own a home, who is unable to garden in the way that Maria does, because I just don't have the ability to like put time and effort and money into land that I don't own in that way. It's so fun to have fruit trees because it kind of gives you a little taste of what it's like to grow your own food in a way that's very low effort and very high reward. And I feel super, super lucky to live in a tropical climate where tropical fruit grows everywhere. So this property that I'm living on has a mango tree, a couple papaya trees, we have coconut trees, avocado trees, and
I'm so jealous.
I'm so lucky because I don't have to really do anything. It just produces fruit versus like growing vegetables and that sort of thing in like a raised bed. That's a lot more high effort. Not that I don't want to do that. One day
Yeah.
in the near future, hopefully, I own a piece of property and I can grow my own food because that's always been a goal of mine. But for now, the fruit is so fun and mangoes are delicious and amazing. And I'm probably not going to be living in South Florida for forever. So I really want to enjoy it while I can because it's just really expensive to own land down here. And it's very unlikely that I will buy a place here. When I do own a house or own property, I'm not going to be able to have this much tropical fruit just available to me all the time.
That is so freaking cool. I am so jealous, and I've loved seeing all of your previous mango season recipes, and I'm so excited to see even more. What is your favorite recipe that you've made this season so far, or that you're looking forward to make?
Yeah, so if you follow along, you definitely, at the time of recording this, I've already posted a lot of mango recipes, and I'm sure there will be even more up by the time that you're listening to this. But my favorite, and it's like my highest performing recipe video to date, is the mango fruit roll ups that I make every year.
So good.
They're so good, and it's such a great way to preserve the mango and actually make it so it's shelf stable. Not that it lasts long because we just eat them so fast, but
Yeah.
it's awesome. So highly recommend if you have ever had a bunch of ripe fruit and don't know what to do with it. And it really does work with pretty much any fruit. Just literally blend it out, spread it thin on a silicone baking sheet, and put it in your oven at a really low temperature if you don't have a dehydrator. I'm lucky enough to have gotten a free dehydrator from someone a couple years ago. It's like from the 90s and it works so well. So if you don't have that though, you can do it in the oven. So you can make these fruit roll-ups, or you can also just dry individual pieces of fruit. So highly recommend that.
So cool.
That's my hyperfixation right now. What is your hyperfixation?
I have been going on hot girl morning walks with my dog, Pepper. We've been going on walks now for over a month, and we walk just in our neighborhood, and my Aura ring, which has been a previous hyperfixation.
Oh, that's your current hyperfixation. Let's be honest.
It is also my current hyperfixation, but it's so cool because it tracks my route and just how far we go. So our entire neighborhood, I like snake through all of the streets, and it's about 2 miles, a little over 2 miles. So I've been doing that every morning, and it's been a great way to start my day. It's a very simple thing.
It's a very simple thing, but it truly is life-changing as someone who tries to go on a walk almost every day, and I try to do at least a mile as well. It really does change your
Yeah.
whole life. And also, we need to talk more about the Aura Ring because Maria got an Aura Ring and I'm obsessed with my Aura Ring. And I was like, you need one. And so we're going to talk about that more in like a future episode, I'm sure, once she's had more of an experience with it because it's something that we're both really into. But
Mhm.
I wanted to mention that I think it's a pretty big deal that you're able to do these walks because you had surgery not that long ago. So the
Yes.
walks are like a big life change because you weren't able to really do a lot of walking.
Yeah, so last November I had a foot surgery where they had to kind of like move some of my bones around and put a plate and several screws in.
Yikes.
So I have like a bionic foot now. It is about a year-long recovery, so for me to have been able to start these walks in June is pretty significant because it's only been 7 months since my surgery. It's been great because I haven't really been able to do a lot. We got Pepper last summer, and we had only just started taking her on walks by the time she was old enough before my surgery, and then winter happened, and it just was not able to go, and I was not able to really walk a lot farther than like 4 or 5 houses at a time, like early in the spring. So it's really nice to be able to walk and to not have any more pain in my foot or have my hips get messed up or my knees. So
Right.
it's been a huge life increase. Uh, It's been a huge
Life changer. It's a life changer.
it's been a huge
It's
life
improved
changer.
your quality of life. And I don't
Yes.
have a dog, and I still highly recommend. Like we've talked about this so many times on this podcast. It's so cliche, but like walking
Yeah.
around your neighborhood with like headphones and a podcast or going with a friend or your partner or whatever, anyone, it's such a game changer. It helps you get off your screens, it helps you move your body, it helps
Mhm.
you clear your head, get some exercise, and also like get familiar with the area that you live. Obviously, be safe. Okay. Don't come at me and say it's dangerous to walk with headphones on. You're right. But just be careful, be safe. Obviously, use discretion. You're an adult.
Yeah.
But it has completely changed my life. I try to do it almost every day. And I don't even have a dog. But I think it's been particularly life changing for you because your dog is like a puppy with a ton of energy and you haven't been able to like
Oh my god,
get
yeah.
her energy out the way that you need to so that she'll behave.
Yep.
So,
She is a lot less like a puppy now that we walk her, and she's more like a dog because she gets out so much energy by time we're done with those walks.
yeah, and she's a lab. So she
A
labs have,
lot of energy.
labs are crazy. They yeah, like they need to
Yeah.
be taken out.
Yeah,
So,
so
that's I'm really excited for you.
it's been great, and we'll be doing it every day. I mean, on the days when I miss walks, like I was sick last week and my husband took walks, like I don't feel like I really started my day right.
That's how I feel. For me, I usually do it at the end of the day. It's like how I wrap up my day, but
Yeah,
it is such a part of my life now that like if I don't leave the house all day, if I'm just working and I don't actually get outside and like walk around, I feel like not
me too.
right. Like
Yeah.
something's wrong. So, highly recommend. And if you're looking for a podcast to listen to on your walk, I know one that you might want to listen to. How am I doing with this self promo thing?
Pretty good. I would say pretty
So
good.
awkward. All right. Well, those are the hyperfixations. And before we fully dive into the topic of today's episode, we wanted to shout out our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Magic Mind.
Magic Mind is a mental performance shot that gets you focused, mentally clear, motivated, and productive. It reduces stress. It's made with mushrooms. And it also has over 100% of your daily vitamin C and D per bottle.
It's scientifically designed to support enhanced focus, mood, and motivation and help create a calm, sustained energy to help you get dialed in for your day. And I have been taking the Magic Mind shots for a while now. They recommend that you take them for 7 days straight to really see a change in your mental performance and your health. And I've been really, really liking them. First off, they taste really, really nice. They have a passion fruit flavor to them. They have some matcha in them, nootropics, tons of vitamins and minerals, and they really, really do taste delicious, which is key because a lot of these wellness shots that you see on the market, I'll take them and yeah, I don't look forward to
Yikes.
it. Magic Mind tastes great. They are filled with tons of great ingredients as someone who could be a little bit picky about ingredients. And thankfully, Maria can have them as someone with allergies.
I can.
Yeah.
And I also really like that they're 100% carbon neutral, so they're good for the planet too.
They are also looking into getting more sustainable packaging in the future, and they're really working towards being a very sustainable brand that actually helps you out with your day to day if you're looking to give up caffeine in the traditional sense or working to reduce your coffee consumption. These can really help you, but you can also take them alongside your morning drink, even if it's coffee.
And we're so excited to be working with them. We also have a 20% off one-time purchase code or 48% off your first subscription. You just have to use the code SPIRALS20 at checkout. You can go to magicmind.com/spirals20, or we will link it in the episode description.
Yeah, thank you so much to Magic Mind, and let's get into the episode.
So today we're talking all about the Hot Girl Hamster Wheel. Brennan, do you want to go over what the Hot Girl Hamster Wheel is?
I cannot start this episode without shouting out the Eco Chic podcast, which is one of our all-time favorite shows. The host of the Eco Chic podcast is named Laura Diaz. She's amazing. Hi, Laura, if you're listening. We love you. And she did a podcast episode with Katie Gaddy as a guest. Katie Gaddy is better known online as Money with Katie. She goes over financial tips for women specifically, and I really, really like her content, but particularly loved the episode that she did of the Eco Chic podcast, all about her concept that she sort of coined, the Hot Girl Hamster Wheel. And I listened to this episode back in January of 2024 for the first time, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. I had never really been introduced to this concept in such a succinct way. She had a really, really excellent way of phrasing exactly what this is. So, to put it in simple terms, essentially the Hot Girl Hamster Wheel refers to the litany of beauty treatments and beauty maintenance that women are expected to subscribe to, and the cost associated with that, the time cost, the actual financial cost, etc. And when you really dive into the concept, highly recommend that you listen to their episode if you're looking for a good listen on this topic. But we could not go another day without discussing this because we talk about it all the time. And I think that it relates to sustainability in such an insane way that really needs to be discussed. And honestly, when I look into this concept, I see very little content about it outside of Katie Gaddy and Laura Diaz from the Eco Chic podcast. Like, there's not a ton of content out there being widely spoken about outside of Katie and Laura's content. So I really want to draw attention to this because I know that the vast majority of our listeners are women. We want everyone to maybe hear about this for the first time, and it can potentially change the way that you look at your spending or your consumption habits as it relates to beauty standards, specifically for women, because I think it's something that really, really needs to be discussed more. So let's dive into some examples of the Hot Girl Hamster Wheel and what it is. I think the biggest example that comes to mind for me are just the regular beauty treatments that we think of. So I lived in Miami for 8 years. I live about an hour from Miami now, and there's particular cultural norms in the area that I've lived the past decade, which really have a lot to do with women's beauty standards and the standards that we uphold in our day to day and the way that we think women should look and perform beauty. So one example of that is hair. If you get your hair colored on a regular basis, specifically, let's say, like you're us and you have dark hair and you want it to be blonde, that is a huge time commitment and upkeep.
It is a huge cost.
It's a huge cost, and it really, really is a great example of the hamster wheel analogy, because once you're on that hamster wheel, you can't really get off.
Yep.
You are going to be consistently dyeing your hair, consistently going into the salon, consistently forking out that cash, which is hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on your hair until you have to make a massive change to get back on the brunette train. Let's just use that as an example.
Yes.
Women getting things like their nails done all the time, it's very normal. It's actually seen as unprofessional in some circles if women do not have their nails done.
Really?
Depending on the industry that you're in, absolutely.
Interesting.
It depends on what you're doing for sure, but
Yeah.
specifically in Miami, and there's a lot of Latin cultural influence there as well. I was the only person that I knew in Miami that didn't get my nails done consistently
Wow.
in some times in my life when I was living living there. It's very culturally normal to get your nails done every 2 weeks. And the cost of doing that is really, really high, and it continues to go up. There are some other examples, of course, if you get your lashes done, if you get your eyebrows done, if you, like we said, hair, we talked about dyeing hair, things like getting a blowout, getting your hair chemically straightened. Of course, there are, implications with cultural and
Mhm.
racial factors as well when it comes to things like hair. However, there are so many examples of this that we could really go on and on and on. And the cost is the thing that I was really fascinated by, because on this other podcast, Eco Chic, they really broke down the financial implications of this. And Katie gave out the statistic that women spend on average an extra $3,500 a year on beauty treatments.
Holy
And
crap.
if that money were properly invested, it could end up being an extra $1 million at the time of a woman's retirement. So that is nothing to laugh at. That is a huge amount of money, and also the time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have, as environmentalists, we're very focused on consumption, hyperconsumption, consumerism, et cetera, and the rate of consumption that we're seeing in the United States these days, especially thanks to platforms like TikTok and Instagram really glorifying having products, having all the latest things. And I think that there's a lot of overlap between the hot girl hamster wheel and our overconsumption habits. So that's something that I really think needs to be taken into account as well.
I also think it's very interesting to me because I haven't lived in a place like Miami. I've lived in the same area, Western New York, my entire life. And I didn't know that things like eyelash treatments or eyebrow, like like the blading type things that they do.
Microblading, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that those existed until I joined social media and started to see videos of
Until
them.
you got online.
And it's insane to
Exactly.
me. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't do any like what I would consider beauty treatments. Like,
No.
I used to get my nails done pre-wedding because I was trying to grow my nails out and just make them pretty for my wedding. But other than that, like I've never really like bought into any of that. Like I get my hair done once a year, if that. And I guess that like opens up a whole other can of worms because I was getting my hair done more pre-wedding. So, but like, why was I doing that if I don't do that regularly? That's a whole other can of worms.
We honestly should do an entire episode on weddings and wedding
Yeah.
culture and how environmentally damaging it is. We
Yes.
might do that in the future. I think that would be really good, because this is unrelated, but Maria did plan an eco-friendly minimalist wedding.
Yes.
And she actually did an episode about that with our friend Chris on her podcast, which is the Mind Body Planet podcast. I feel like your lifestyle as it is now, you don't particularly lean into any beauty standard or beauty trend.
No.
And during your wedding season, it's interesting that you did.
And I almost like now that I think back, like I don't even know why I did. It was almost like I felt like I needed to because everybody does.
It's just kind of like what you do. So that's kind of how you can look at it in terms of like the reason that women are feeling the need to do a lot of these treatments and to opt into this hot girl hamster wheel. What you're describing is like your wedding. Everyone's going to have eyes on you. You're going to be posting a ton of content. That is really your season to kind of like shine and do it. And then if you think about it, there's a lot of women that's kind of their whole life.
Yeah.
Like if they are working in a professional setting where their appearance matters a lot, if they're working in an industry where that's something that's really important, then that's kind of their life all the time.
And that is just insane to me how much money is spent on it because it was really expensive before my wedding to get my nails done every 2 weeks and get my hair done every 6 weeks. Like
Yeah.
it is very expensive. I don't know how people can afford it, to be honest.
Exactly. And I want to give the massive disclaimer. I'm trying so hard not to give too many disclaimers because I just want to say my opinions without worrying about offending people. Oh, the joys of being a woman. But I will say this is in no way, shape, or form meant to shame women who choose to opt into these beauty treatments. Like in any way, shape, or form, that is not our goal. It's simply to take a hard look at why we, specifically as women, feel the need to do the things that we're doing, to spend the money on the things that we're spending the money on. It's something that I think needs to be discussed. It's not coming from a place of wanting to shame women. It's simply let's examine
Mm-hmm.
the factors that encourage us to do the things that we do, and let's have a conversation about it. So if that's something, if you're listening to this and you're feeling potentially attacked by this because I participate in those trends. I do that. It's not meant to tell you that you shouldn't do that. And on the podcast that I listened to that first opened up this concept to me, Katie Gaddy was saying, like, I'm still blonde. Like, I still do this. I'm still
Yeah.
on the hamster wheel. I still dye my hair. And that's something that I think is worth noting, because
Yeah.
neither one of us, just because we don't subscribe to a lot of these things, that doesn't mean that we look down on other women in any way, shape, or form for doing so. In fact, honestly, some of these treatments, if I'm being fully honest, I wish I could jump on the train and do things like that for myself. However, I just honestly can't financially justify it, and it's not a priority for me, and I'm too cheap.
Yeah, part of it is definitely that for me. I mean, I was spending probably $100 every 2 weeks to get my nails done,
Yeah, it's $100 at least.
like 3 or $400 to get my hair done every time. Like, I just can't justify spending the money on that, but I also can't justify
Right.
the waste that comes along with that with the excessive beauty
Yeah,
treatments.
and of course there's a sustainable way to do this. And to be an eco girl, you don't need to say death to beauty standards.
Yes.
You as a person, your unique individual experiences and interests and hobbies and things that you're into, they don't have to go away so that you can fit
Mhm.
into a box to consider yourself an environmentalist. That's not the case. There's, generally speaking, almost always a more sustainable way to go about the things that you want to do. So, for example, our friend Sabrina, she is a content creator as well in the eco space. She talks a lot about how she loves having her nails done and she loves doing
Mhm.
her nails. I personally don't do my nails, again, because I'm lazy and I'm cheap. And she does. And she talks a lot about how she gets hate for doing that. And she does it in a more sustainable way. She has really explored different ways of doing that.
Yeah.
There is no box that you need to fit in to be an environmentalist. So let's get that out of the way. You can participate in beauty trends while doing it in a more sustainable fashion. However, like I've said, it's just important to examine, why are we doing it in the first
Yeah.
place?
Every environmentalist has their thing. I collect a lot of books. I like books. Brennan really likes clothes and fashion. And just because we don't partake in those beauty things doesn't mean it's not okay. And everybody has their things. And for Sabrina, like getting her nails done is her thing. For me, buying books is my thing. Like everybody has their thing. So we're not here to shame anybody.
We are pro individuality within
Yes.
environmentalism. So
Yes.
whatever makes you, the unique things that you're interested in, yeah, continue to do them in a more sustainable way.
Hmm.
However, let's examine, why are we doing these things? And the concept that really stuck with me as it relates to the hot girl hamster wheel is, and this is an interesting concept, this might ruffle some feathers. How many people are upholding certain standards of beauty purely from a place of, I do it for myself. I actually love this. I want to do this for myself. In a world where we're constantly being inundated with beauty standards for women, where we're constantly being inundated with this very short trend cycle of, oh, now having straight hair is cool. Oh, now having big bushy eyebrows is cool. Oh, now
Yep.
eyelash extensions are in, they're out. It's constantly being shoved down our throats. Why are we playing into these trends? As someone who cares a lot about fashion, beauty, style, whatever,
Yeah.
I actually really do see it as a form of self expression. And I do constantly have to ask myself, why is it that I'm subscribing to this and that I feel the need to carry out this particular trend or way of doing my hair or my makeup or whatever? Is it because I genuinely like it, or is it because it is the current beauty standard and the trend that I am seeing on a day to day basis every time I open my phone, every time I go out into my city and see women walking around? And I think there's something, unrelated to the hot girl hamster wheel that needs to be dissected there. Why is it okay for people to say, oh, I'm doing it for myself, when in reality, they've been influenced by outside circumstances? Is that something that is bad? I don't have the answer.
Yeah, and I don't really think anybody has the answer to that. And I think it's going to definitely vary from person to person. Like when I was starting to get ready with my wedding, it wasn't really because I was doing it because I wanted to. It was definitely because I felt like I had to.
This is what you do. This is what everyone does.
Mhm.
This is what everybody has for their wedding season. I have to have my wedding nails, when in reality, you never get your nails done
Yeah.
anyways. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like if that, and
No.
that's the thing we're going to keep coming back to. If you enjoy doing your nails, if you enjoy doing your hair and that's something you really like, keep doing it.
Yeah. There's nobody telling you not to.
Yeah, it's just worth examining. And I will say that the concept of the hamster wheel, I think, is very damaging to women as a whole because they don't feel as though there is a choice.
Yeah.
And there are places where it is incredibly common for women to be almost like ostracized and shamed and excluded from things because they don't subscribe to
Yeah.
these things. So, of course, you're going to want to live your best life and fit in. And if you're living in a place in a culture where it's normal and it's not really super socially acceptable to get off of the hamster wheel, of course you're going to stay on
Yeah.
the wheel.
And I would also like to point out that all my husband had to do to get ready for our wedding was get his hair cut. Oh, I did make him get his nails done with me the last time.
Oh, what did he do? Like clear polish?
Literally just clear. Like he just got them like trimmed and like his cuticles like
Nice.
moistened.
Moistened.
See, this is what I mean. Like, I don't do this stuff regularly. Even after my wedding, I continued to get my nails done because I felt like I couldn't not schedule another appointment. And I only stopped when I had my foot surgery, like 6 months after my wedding.
Ooh, that is
And I still
interesting.
have not been back. And I loved my nail tech. I mean, I went to the same person. She was great. And it's not like I stopped because I didn't like want to see her again or like have that like almost like friend-ish relationship. I know it's weird because like I pay her to do my nails, but like I wasn't ending it because of that. And now that I feel like I haven't gotten my nails done in a while, like I feel like I'm not guilted into continuing to go back or I'm not like encouraged to keep going back. I don't know how your uh hate online is, but I always get a lot of comments about how like I mean, let's be honest, most of the time when I'm filming myself, I don't look the best. Like I don't put makeup on. I just kind of throw my hair up like
You look like a real person in your house doing your thing. But the honest truth is that people aren't used to seeing that.
yeah, and I get a lot of comments on it on Facebook and on YouTube, just like about my physical looks.
Well, first of all, that's gross. And
Yes.
I hate that. I mean, I do too, but I feel like I probably do put more of an effort than I normally would when I know I'm going to be on
Yeah,
camera.
I don't.
And there's so much to unpack here, right? Because I could say, oh, I do it because it makes me feel more confident. And that's true.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, nothing happens in a vacuum, right? Nothing exists in a vacuum. So it's like, why do I feel more comfortable? Probably because I'm fitting into this bubble
Mhm.
of this is what people think a woman should look like
Yeah.
when she's on camera, having a little bit of makeup on. And I want to be clear, I don't subscribe to 90% of the things on the Hot Girl Hamster Wheel. Like, I have
Yes.
never gotten a manicure actually in my life. And that's kind of a fun fact.
Really?
No, I never have. And I will
Not
say,
even for like prom or anything?
no, I've done pedicures.
Wow.
I've done pedicures, but I've
Oh,
never
okay.
gotten an actual manicure. I remember when I was a kid, my mom would go get her toenails done and it would be like $5 for the manicure lady to just paint my nails, like just paint them, just a color.
Yeah.
And she would always, if she was getting a pedicure, she would take me
Yeah.
and do that. But I've never gotten the full manicure.
I always get so frustrated too when I just think about the double standard that there is because have you seen those videos online too about like there are beauty influencers that do it that show like their before face and then their after face of like how much makeup that they put on and I feel like that is what everybody expects now. This is a bold statement, but that is what like men expect now.
That's not a bold statement. That's fact. That's fact.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure my husband has seen me wear actual makeup like 5 times in my
And
life.
your wedding day was one of those times.
That's
Yeah.
it. Like, I just don't the wedding day okay, I have a kind of a funny story to tell about my makeup on my wedding day. I paid somebody to do my makeup, and I went in with, like, such a natural photo. I was like, "I wanna still look like myself, but, like, help me out here. Do some makeup." And I paid this girl to come do it, and when she left, I looked in the mirror, and I wiped half of the makeup off. It was just, like, pushed, like, my eyebrows up so they looked, like, really thick, and, like, I already have thick eyebrows, like, I don't need help in that department.
I brush mine up every day because my eyebrow hairs are so long that
Oh,
they'll like
okay.
go in my eye. So the only makeup that I do, and again, sorry if this is getting off topic because this is not really this isn't like
Yeah.
the actual subject matter, but I think it's like important to keep in mind like how much we do subscribe or don't subscribe to beauty standards. But like
Yeah.
I do a tinted SPF. I do a little bit of cream blush, a tinted lip balm, and I brush my eyebrows up. That's what I do for makeup. And that's what I do mostly every day, especially when I'm going to be on camera. The whole thing takes me like 5 minutes. But yeah, I do the eyebrow trend, and I have for like 5 years.
I don't do that. I have like thick enough eyebrows already. I don't want to make them thicker.
I think it's just to like groom them for me. But I have thought about getting like a brow lamination, which is where they keep them up permanently.
Interesting.
It's $90 and it lasts 4 to 6 weeks. And I'm like, I can't.
That's not bad, but over a whole year
Oh,
though?
I think it's bad. That's what I'm saying. Because once this is a hamster wheel, because I know for a fact, once I do it,
Yes.
I'm gonna be like, I want to do it again in 6 weeks.
Yeah. And the cost of one treatment isn't that bad, but
Well, it
when you
adds
look at the
up.
whole
Oh,
year,
yeah.
it adds up. And like that's a lot of money. That's like a couple weeks of groceries, like a couple grocery trips at
90
least.
bucks is absolutely enough groceries to get me through like a week, no question. I mean, check out my budget meal plans.
True.
It's not a matter of pointing fingers and saying like, "Oh, I don't do this and therefore I have the moral high ground." It's questioning why it is that we want to do these things. And honestly, as it always does, it comes down to money, and it comes down to brands and companies wanting to make a ton of money off of consumers.
So after I originally hired the girl to do my makeup, my mom said to me, "Why did you do that? Like you're not going to like it." And I should have listened to my mother. Mother knows best, but I went away with it and did it anyways, and I still just like didn't like it. So I at least felt a little bit better that I didn't get onto that hot girl hamster wheel. And I still don't wear any makeup during the day. Like I do have a very short skincare routine, but it's literally just like moisturizer, sunscreen, toner. Like it's not actual makeup.
I subscribe to the skincare. I will say that because I don't want to have to do the things like, yeah, I'm
Yes.
vain. I care about what I look like. I don't want to have, I don't want to look 50 when I'm 30.
Yep.
So I do actually
Exactly.
care. And I will be the first to admit that. However, I want to avoid having to, get to the point where I actually consider doing like injectables, which is
Yeah, oh my
not something I'm
god.
interested in.
Or plastic surgery.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I do take care of my skin at home, but I will say like when it comes to the hot girl hamster wheel, it really does refer to, it's kind of broad, but it really does refer to like the treatments, the things that we get done, the external cost of outsourcing that stuff. So if I take care of my skin at home, and I keep it minimal and I kind of maintain it myself. I mean, there are women that get facials every 2 weeks. And pretty privilege comes into play here. And it's very foolish to pretend that it doesn't and to not touch on that topic because I have quote unquote good skin.
Mhm.
Like I'm not going to deny that. Yeah, I take care of it and I work hard on my like SPF and everything in my skincare regimen. However, obviously genetically I don't have like cystic acne, and if I did, that absolutely impacts the way that people see you in the world and that the way that you move through the world. And it's silly to pretend that it doesn't and to pretend that people don't care about the fact that they have giant cystic sores on their face. Of course they want to get rid of that. Of course they would do anything to make that go away. And I think it's silly to pretend as though they should just get over it.
Yeah.
For some people they can, and they can learn to just love exactly as they are, and I love that for them. However, let's not pretend like that's an easy thing to do.
Mhm.
If you have something like cystic acne, if you have something that you're incredibly insecure about, yeah, you're going to want to make changes. You're going to want to outsource that and do what you can. And I'm sure that will offend some people who do believe that self-love is just accepting yourself exactly as you are, and I do lean more into that than the
Mhm.
average person, I would say. However, I think it's easy for someone like me to say that because I'm a thin, tall white girl with quote unquote good skin, and like I fit the beauty standard. And that's an uncomfortable topic to talk about because I'm sure there's going to be people who are like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Or people who are like, wow, okay, you fit the beauty standard. But I'm just stating the obvious. And like it has been easier for me to move through the world in the body and skin and face that I have been given. And so it's easy for someone like me to say, you should get off the hamster wheel. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and I think that it's something that needs to be taken into account. There's racial and ethnic concerns as well. There are factors that play into this. For women of color, hair is a huge thing. And women of color that don't relax their hair, that don't kind of manipulate their hair to fit a more European beauty standard, there are repercussions for that within society. And it's silly to pretend like there aren't. So, this podcast episode, this subject matter, this conversation is in no way intending to shame women for doing what they have to do to feel good in this world. It's simply to examine the concepts as a whole. Where do these beauty standards come from? For me, as I get older, as I'm going to be in my 30s next year, I want to piece together why I do the things that I do. I want to actually have a foundation for what I ethically and morally think is okay to project outwardly into the world for other women to see. You have an impact on other women. And I think this is a concept that people don't want to talk about. And we're going to do an entire podcast episode about beauty standards and body image specifically. And I think it's a conversation that we both really have an interesting perspective on because we move through the world very differently in the way that we look at this. And I think this is a taboo topic, and we'll get into it more in the next episode. But if you choose to get work done, if you choose to do all these procedures, that is fine. However, the idea that you're not impacting other women's perception of womanhood, I disagree with that. I think that you are.
And I also want to include too that there's a whole other layer, especially with people like you and me, because we post our lives online.
Yes. We have a platform. Like,
You were
yeah.
saying that like you fit the ideal, like perfect young woman standard. I think then we also have to unpack the extra layer in there about how if a brand comes up to you for something like skincare and wants you to promote their product for skincare, it is going to push people who are watching you to maybe consume products that they wouldn't have before. You might inspire people to start a skincare routine, which inherently is good, but then you're putting somebody on that hamster wheel for skincare, whether or not they want to be on there. And I think that's a whole other interesting thing to unpack.
Right. With the influencer caveat, it really does kind of change the way that we
Yeah.
think about this whole concept. And again, I honestly personally don't consider skincare to be like a huge part of the hot girl hamster wheel because I think for me it's more about like the procedures that people are not sharing that they go out and do. Like if you like do you know how many people like it's just normal for them to go get a spray tan like every couple of weeks? I mean,
Crazy.
it's very, very normal. So it's like if you're not transparent about
And
that.
there are a lot of beauty influencers who are not.
Right. Well, if you're not sharing, if you have a like a large platform and you're not sharing, and again, I think this is controversial. There are people who are going to say you don't have any obligation to share what you do. And
Oh, of
sure,
course.
I understand
Yeah.
that. However, I do think that there's something to be said for people being curious and wanting to know because you put your whole life out there and people want
Yeah.
they look up to you. They want to be you. They like you, especially these creators with huge platforms. I mean, the amount of treatments, the amount of hot girl hamster wheeling that goes on behind the scenes, I think it should be
Yeah.
transparent. I think it should
I
be out in
agree.
the world because I think people need to know the amount of work and time and money and consumerism that goes
Yeah.
into it before they decide whether or not they want to sign up for that.
Especially beauty influencers. Like all I can think of is like Michaela, the makeup beauty
Oh
influencer,
yeah.
about how many different treatments and stuff that she does and like how much product that she has and how much skincare stuff. And I disagree with you. I think this is the first time we're disagreeing on something on the podcast. I think skincare is a huge part of the hot girl hamster wheel.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think just the term as Katie Gaddy broke it down is more about like the treatments that you go do and pay people
Yes.
to do because that's where like the 3,500 a year that comes in.
But do you know how much you can spend on skincare?
A lot.
It's
A
insane.
lot. And also and I will say you don't need to. Like you
No,
don't
you
need
don't
to
need to at all.
even if you want to do like a 10-step routine, there are companies that are way cheaper than what you're
Yes.
seeing promoted on Instagram.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but I get a ton of skincare PR. Like I have a
I
whole
do too.
shelf of skincare PR and I'm constantly giving it away to people that come over to my
I
house.
know. Me too. I give it I have a box for the girls.
Yes.
Oh, we're so privileged.
We are. And it's I think about this a lot because I would never have spent money on skincare 2 years ago. I only got into a skincare routine because brands were sending it to me and I was like, I might as well like get on it. But I am privileged enough to not have to pay for skincare because I get so much PR. But if I had to put out that money, I don't know if I would be doing skincare. And I guess that's the same sort of thing. Like if somebody said, oh, like, you wanna get your hair done for free? I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And if I didn't have to pay for it, then I would be on it. But now that I have to pay for it, I'm only actually getting it done once a year.
Right.
Money is a huge
Oh,
factor.
it's huge. It's the
It's
reason
huge.
I've never dyed my hair in my life, never.
It's so expensive now. I did it because I did it for my wedding, and it was like $400 a salon visit, and I wasn't even dyeing my whole head.
And did you and you didn't lighten, like, you didn't go
No, I didn't
blonde?
go blonde. I did have whatever it's called, like, from, like, my ears
Highlights
down
or
lightened because I did, like, the bottom half
okay.
purple. So I did have to
Yeah.
have it lightened.
Oh my gosh, I forgot you did your hair
I
purple for your
know.
wedding.
I think I'm gonna
Oh
do
my
it
gosh.
again because I actually really liked the way it looked. But again, I don't wanna shell out $400 every single salon visit, and something like the color purple, you have to get it done every 6 weeks because it's not a natural.
I think hair, in my opinion, I think that the coloring of your hair is honestly probably the best example of a
Yeah.
hot girl hamster wheel. Because if you know, especially if you're a dark-haired girl and you go lighter, if you know, you
Yeah.
know. That is hundreds, if not thousands
Yep.
of dollars. Like the first time I had a friend go from brunette to blonde, and I realized that she told me about the experience that she was in the chair in that salon for like
It's
7 hours,
crazy.
and it was like $1,000.
Yeah.
That blew my
A lot
mind.
of people too have to have several sessions in order to get their hair light.
Yeah, right. And the thing is, it looks, I mean, it's I'm not gonna say it looks bad, but like, come on, you know how you feel when you are blonde and you have these huge, 6 inches
Yep.
of dark roots. It's like you don't feel good about yourself,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a taboo thing to have dark
Mhm.
roots, and it's like, so you of course you're gonna go back and get it redone. And
Yep.
that's for me what it comes down to. Like, okay, I'm going gray. It's happening. It's been happening for a couple of years now.
Same.
I've sort of been in denial. It's getting like to the point where I really notice it. And this is an insecurity. And like I'm kind of working behind the scenes with myself on why it's an insecurity for me. Because honestly, if I wasn't inundated with this beauty content that is all about anti-aging, I probably wouldn't think twice about how many gray hairs I have.
So much content. So much content. I get so much on my feed about that, about how you need to take care of your skin and take care of your hair and take care of everything.
Right. And of course, I do see, and here, the main argument is that it's self care. It's self care.
Yes.
It's self care. I'm caring for myself. It makes me feel good. It relaxes me. I like to spend time with myself. I love
And if
that.
that's important to you, great.
But there's ways to do that where it's like,
Yeah.
are we doing this specifically for ourselves? And that's where you have to ask yourself that question individually. Because for me,
Yeah.
and again, I'm super like transparent. Like I'm sure I do the anti-aging skincare stuff. I mean, there's people that do way more than me. I just do like a serum at night.
Yeah.
I do participate in the skincare thing, and part of it is, yeah, it helps me with my self care. I take good care of myself. It's like a wind down routine that feels really good to me. It helps me relax, and it is like 5 minutes at the end of the day where I'm taking care of myself. I shut the bathroom door and I do my thing, and it
Yeah.
is relaxing, and it's like it's for me. However, like I'm not going to pretend like I don't care about aging. I absolutely do, and I'm not going to lie. Like I look in the mirror now and I see lines on my face that weren't there 5 years ago, and it does get to me. Like, absolutely. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "I'm holier than thou, and I'm not gonna ever do anything about it, and aging is natural." Like, yeah, we could say that, and I objectively know that aging is natural and it's a gift to age. I objectively know that it is a
Mhm.
privilege to live to see wrinkles on my face. I know that. However, that doesn't mean that I also
Yeah.
don't see it and think, "Oh my god, what is this? I don't want this." Like I mean, two truths can exist simultaneously.
I think it's really important to add too about how many women who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s that dye their hair brown even though they are naturally fully gray. I don't know if your mom has done that or not, but my mom about like 10 years ago stopped dyeing her hair. She used to get it dyed because she had gray roots, and now she is completely silver. My mom has been totally silver now for, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 years, and now she really only pays $30, $40 to get her hair cut. But previously, she was spending so much money on dyeing her hair. And I think that that's interesting because there's so many people that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that are women. Men don't do this, men don't care. Women who dye their hair brown
Or any
even though
color.
they're fully gray because it's young or it's early. And I think we're in that age period too where we're gonna start to see aging. Like, I have grays that are coming in right dead front and center in the roots, and
I know. That's how I'm like, why do you have to be right in my
I
face? Like, why
know.
do you have to be right in the front? Because if you were on the back, I wouldn't
I
know and I wouldn't
know.
care.
I know. Up until probably like 6 months ago, I was, like, pulling them out. Now I'm just kind of leaving them and letting them do their thing. Yeah, I don't know. I was literally just letting them do their thing, and eventually I feel like I'm gonna have to. And the last time I went to get my hair done, she was like, "Oh, I see, like, some grays are starting." And I was like, "Yeah, thank you." And she's like, "Do you want me to cover them?" And I was like, "No. I don't wanna get on that wheel as a 27-year-old."
It's a hamster wheel. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
I do think it's really interesting though too that now that I think about my city, you were talking about earlier how you were in Miami and that it's like a very big thing. There really aren't, like, now that I think about it, a lot of people in my area don't really do a lot of beauty treatments. Like, I couldn't tell you where any of them were.
I know. That's why you can tell when people are from the Midwest and they move to Miami. You can tell who the tourists are.
Oof.
Like when they're from the Midwest. And it's not an insult. It's just a matter of like people just do
Yeah,
things differently. Like when I first moved to Miami and expressed to other women that I didn't get my hair done and I had never done it and I'd never gotten a manicure and I get one haircut a year, they were shook. And that's the same in LA, New
nuts.
York, New York City. I mean, like it's very
And your
much,
cost of living is so high in Miami. How do people afford it?
well, they have money or they have debt.
Money or debt?
Yeah, it's always the two. It's always one of the two. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, I won't go into debt for it.
Absolutely not. First of all, I won't go into debt for very many things at all, but that is definitely
Yeah.
not one of them. And that's where I start to lose patience with the hamster wheel because there absolutely
Yeah.
are women who feel this outward pressure to jump onto this hamster wheel and they would do anything to make it
Yep.
happen. I'm sure a lot of people go into debt for it. And that's where I draw the line. If you have a disposable income, if you have time, if this adds to your life, if you enjoy doing these treatments, keep doing it. Do your thing.
Yeah.
If you have an honest conversation with yourself and you ask yourself if the litany of treatments that you are on the hamster wheel with are actually adding to your life and you find that that is not the case, then I do encourage you to get off the hamster wheel. You can get off the hamster wheel, reevaluate. I think what it comes down to is like, I don't want to subscribe to this incredibly consumerist narrative that is being shoved down our throats all the time. I don't want to subscribe to this beauty standard that we have normalized that is actually not helpful to women. So for me, identifying which things do and don't contribute to that and are not motivated by those factors, that's key. And Katie Gaddy said on the podcast episode, you can ask yourself if you're doing this for yourself and if you're doing this for outward validation, etc. A good indicator that you have been influenced by the current beauty standards and trends is the stuff that you think you are doing for yourself always lines up exactly with the current standard for beauty and the current beauty trend. So if that is the case, right?
Yeah.
That's not a coincidence that I say, "Oh, getting lip filler every, you know, 3 months is for me." Would you have done that 10 years ago when the giant lips weren't the thing?
No, of course not.
Maybe not. And that's
Yeah.
and that's again, it's so hard to have this conversation because it's not accusatory, but people are going to take it as such. If you have a serious conversation with yourself as to the influences in your life and the reasons you're spending money and the reasons you're doing treatments for your body, for your outward appearance, are actually actively influenced by things that you do not align with or agree with, that's something to really reconsider.
And I also think you should take a step back and look at your social media feeds. Look at the
Yes.
people that you follow. Do you follow beauty influencers that are shoving all of these products down your throat every other day or all these different treatments down your throat every other day?
Unfollow.
Or are you following like how-to videos or I don't know, like things like that? Take a look at your social media feeds because if you follow a majority of beauty influencers, it's likely that you were influenced not because you actually want to do it.
And yeah, doing a social media audit is really helpful in every every aspect of your life, honestly.
Oh,
Take a
yeah.
look at what you're consuming and the ways that it's influencing you, and actually ask yourself, what are my core ethics and values? For me, personally, this is just me, my core ethics and values surround female empowerment coming from a genuine, true place that is not feeding into patriarchal beauty standards, that is
Yes.
women actually genuinely being empowered.
Yeah.
Not empowered because a razor company sold them some stuff under the guise of, you can do it all, woman. No, actual
Yeah.
empowerment of women in a patriarchal society. Let's talk about it. What is actually helping women get ahead? And we're going to talk about this more in our body image episode as well. But that is not an easy task because, like I've said so many times, this stuff doesn't exist in a vacuum. We are outwardly influenced, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a matter of piecing together, why do we make the decisions that we do? Why do we opt in to the hamster wheel? And do we want to continue to do so? It's not all one size fits all thing. It's not black and white. It's not this is bad, this is good. It's let's ask ourselves, let's talk about it, let's piece together how we want to live our lives, the decisions that we want to make, etc.
Yeah, and I think it's important to also mention that this is new for literally everybody. The amount of content that our generation consumes is unlike previous generations. There were always advertisements, there were always skinny, beautiful women holding up a Coca Cola. Like, there were always advertisements influencing people. But the amount of content that our generation consumes on a daily basis is insane compared to previous generations. So this is a newer issue.
Well, it's worsening with the state of
It's worsening.
content and media.
Yes.
I will hear people use the argument, I'm not obligated to be a positive role model. I'm not obligated to justify my decisions and the way I carry myself through the world and the way that I physically present and the things that I'm willing to do and the hoops I'm willing to jump through to fit into the beauty standard. And I agree with that. Sure, you're not obligated to. And I get where that's coming from. And some days that's how I feel. However, when I actually ask myself, if I'm going to have an influence on people, if I'm going to have other women looking at me, yes, I have a platform, you have a platform. So that is something that comes into play here. However, even if I didn't have a platform, walking through the world as a woman, you are impacting other women. You are. So why would I not want to be a positive impact? If I'm going to influence other people through the way that I portray myself, through the way that I walk through the world, the way that I appear, even, would you not want to use that influence to encourage women to feel better about themselves and not worse? That's a simple question, and I think it's worth discussing because
Mic drop.
Mike drop throws Mike. You can make changes to yourself. It is your body, it is your choice. I 100% absolutely encourage women to have bodily autonomy, to make their own decisions, to do what makes them feel the most confident.
You do you.
Absolutely. However, let's examine why we are making the decisions that we are making. What are the influences that are causing us to alter our bodies, to change the way we look, to spend thousands of dollars and many hours of time to fit into a beauty standard? Let's ask ourselves why, and then we can have the conversation as to whether or not we have any obligation.
You're not required to do any of this just because you're a woman. You're not required to do any of it.
You're not required. And your womanhood does not come down to getting eyelash extensions. If you want to get eyelash extensions, that's amazing. I love that for you. However, this is simply a conversation of let's examine what are the outside influences that are causing women to make these decisions that have an impact on people, planet, financial wellness, overall mental health, etc. All of these things impact all of those things. These choices don't exist within a vacuum. We are outwardly influenced every single day by beauty standards, media, etc., companies trying to sell us things, etc. So let's have an honest conversation about those influences before we make decisions about how we're going to live our lives and the things that we are or are not going to subscribe to. That's all we're saying.
I think that was a very productive conversation on the Hot Girl Hamster Wheel.
I think the thing that it comes down to with the hamster wheel is like the concept, and you should absolutely listen to the podcast episode that we recommended. We'll link it. But when it comes to the hamster wheel, it's this idea that like once you opt in, you can't get off the wheel. So things like eyelash extensions, spray tans, waxing, hair removal, getting your hair dyed, getting your hair styled, all of these things, like they are a time they're a timed thing. So every once you subscribe, you're on the hamster wheel and it continues from there.
And if you start those treatments, when does it stop?
Well, that's why I haven't dyed my hair or anything, because I'm like, I'm too lazy and too cheap to do this, because once I'm on the hamster wheel, I'm not getting off.
And then once you start dyeing your hair, then are you going to be influenced to do eyebrows and eyelashes and add everything else on
It's a
incrementally?
slippery slope, as they say.
Ugh. Then you're spending thousands of dollars a year on maintaining an image.
There are so many sociological factors that come into play with this conversation. We simply just want to have the conversation. It's just a talking point. So sound off in the comments below if you think I shouldn't be allowed to talk. Oh, I shouldn't ask for it.
Oh god. All right. Well, I think that's enough for today. That's enough spiraling on the hot girl hamster wheel. If you enjoy different treatments, if you enjoy getting your hair done or getting your nails done, and that's a form of self-care for you, you do you. And that's if you've taken a look at why you want to do this, why you want to do all these treatments, and you're content with your reasoning, we're not here to shame you. We're not here to tell you that you shouldn't get them done. We support you doing it. I mean, we support what makes you feel good. But if you're really just doing these treatments because you're trying to conform to some sort of beauty standard, some sort of standard that is, on in all honesty, probably not reachable by everybody, then why are you doing it? Why are you spending thousands of dollars? So think about it. Food for thought.
Touch grass.
Go hug a tree. But we appreciate you listening to this episode, and
we do want to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to hear your opinions and your thoughts on this and your perspective. So shoot us a message, leave a comment, let us know what you think, because I think this is endlessly fascinating. This is absolutely one of my hyperfixations. And as someone with like a sociology degree and an interest in consumerism and beauty and fashion, it's like the combination of all my favorite niche interests. So if this is also of interest to you, please share your thoughts and be sure to be extra mean. I'm just kidding. Please stop being mean.
oh my god.
We want to also say thank you to Magic Mind for sponsoring today's episode of the podcast. The link and the code will be in the description down below for you to give it a try and let us know how it goes for you.
Thanks for listening, and our next episode will be here in 2 weeks. We're going to be talking all about becoming self-sustainable.
Ooh, that sounds fun. So we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye. I just need to address the elephant in the room. The lawn guys are here, okay? And if you hear a weed whacker, we have tried to stop a million times. They're not supposed to be here today. It's so loud, like for me, through
It's
my
fine.
headphones, it's so loud.
Oh, I can just barely hear it.
It's distracting me and making me upset. They're right outside. They're right outside.
Yeah, I can fully hear it now.
I'm gonna fucking lose it, honestly. I'm seriously gonna fucking throw my microphone across the room. Dude, this is a huge property. Why are you right outside my window for an hour? There's other weeds to eat. Eat those weeds with your weed eater elsewhere.